What does success look like to me? What am I driving towards? And those things are very personal. It's amazing what you can accomplish when there's trust in the room. And when you remove that trust, it's remarkable how inefficient you can become.
And when you've got guys around you who are buying into your vision and pushing towards the same thing, it's energizing.
All right, well, it's another day. It's an early day for us. And how was your drive in this morning?
Short.
Yeah.
She's staying in town last night overnight.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're moving, so we still have a place in town.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, kept it nice and short. Knowing that we were recording early this morning, I just made the decision to be like, you know what? Better to stay in tonight.
Yeah, and that's the way our season is right now. Like, doing what we do these days, every moment seems to be spoken for. Like, it's interesting. And there's also a lot of like different community and personal stuff that you just can't let drop completely. And so I find, like, from morning till night, it's pretty intentional days.
Oh yeah, like every minute of every day for me right now is spoken for.
Yeah.
Whether it's with work or even in the evenings when the kids go to bed. Right now, I'm on my computer working.
Yeah.
It's just like working through weekends. It's seasonal business, and we're approaching the end, so it's getting.
Well, the first season that I ran a seasonal company would have been 33 years ago now. And so there's been a few exceptions when I was studying for a couple of years and a few different things where it hasn't been an issue. But for the most part, when I ran the cabinet shop, it wasn't as seasonal.
Yeah.
But for another, 6 years there. But for the most part in my life, this part of the season is equated with like, just put your head down and get it done. And no matter how much you try to like spread the work out and figure it out so that you're not swamped at this time. Yeah. There's always people in a panic. There's always people you want to help out.
Yeah. Well, and this time of year too, it's so many of the phone calls we get right now are people who are like desperate and being like, I need XYZ done before winter. It's just like, well, you're in the north. Winter starts sometime in October, November, or at the end of September at the time of this recording. And it's just like, why are you calling us right now?
Yeah.
Oh, my roof is leaking. It has to be done. It's like, okay, well, no guarantees. We'll try, but it's
and there's this also the other thing that I always find is that you have your schedule, and your schedule is usually just fractionally optimistic so that it's something that you have to work hard at to achieve.
Yeah.
And then you'll have a few days where the weather doesn't work in your favor. You'll have a few days where someone's sick or someone's having a baby or someone's, like just a whole variety of different things. Someone loses a family member. All of those things happen in the last little while. And so then all of a sudden your schedule becomes like a little more intense. So you're shoving maybe one or two jobs out rather than the other way around. And it doesn't take much.
Yeah, no, it's just crazy seasons. Even for us to get in the booth here and record, in all honesty, it's like, it's almost stressful, and it's a sacrifice for us to even be in here.
It is.
There's just
so exactly what we're looking for is that we want it to be real. So here we are.
Yeah.
I think that it is critical at all times, but even more critical in a crunch time to know what you're shooting for in your business, in your life. What are the things that matter? Because, for example, with family, if it's just about your business, then you can completely ignore your family and feel totally like legitimized, because it's like, it's crunch time and you're doing this for your family, so you can completely ignore them. But that doesn't work, because kids don't get that. Or if they do, they get it from a sense like, it's always funny to me how many shows they have with dads that are absentee at the baseball game. Like, that's really, really, really big theme in a lot of shows.
Yeah.
And the reason it's a big theme is because it affects kids, and dads usually don't understand it completely. And so even in crunch time, it's like, and I know that you often talk about this, you might not have tons of quantity of time with your kids, but the time that you do have, you got to find a way to actually look them in the eye.
Yeah, but in all honesty, like, with the amount of pressure I'm under and our staff is under, like, I actually have very little tolerance for my teenage kids right now. And it makes every aspect of my life harder. And, a lot of days, like right now, I'm like questioning, like, why am I putting, like, should I be under this much pressure at this moment? And I'm doing it for the sake, like, we're dealing with some circumstances. One of our main foremen just lost a parent and is grieving with that. So we're trying to give him space. One of our main managers just had their first baby and parental leave, want to leave him alone. But when you're losing key members of your team, it adds, and this is just, again, the byproduct of being an entrepreneur. When your main team members have life happen, that responsibility has to be shifted.
Yes.
And unfortunately, if you're short staffed, especially like we drastically are right now,
Yeah.
a lot of that goes on you,
Right.
as the owner.
Well, and even if not directly, you've got people filling roles they don't normally fill. And so even if someone else is picking up something extra, it's still a stress on you because you've got to manage that and make sure that it's taken care of in an appropriate manner.
Well, and we're trying to fill gaps. And that's the thing, like, we've been changing our job roles and making changes and trying to fill gaps, but then you have two key people step out for a temporary period of time, and it's just like, now you're trying to fill all the original gaps by changing job roles and descriptions, and then you're trying to cover all this missing work, and it is it's extremely challenging. And sometimes I especially find when I'm under such an intense amount of pressure, it's easy to lose focus on why. Like, what am I actually working towards aside from just
doing what
just keeping up?
Yeah.
And
well, and it's interesting. Like, I've caught myself 3 times within the last week lying to customers. 3 times to 3 different customers. And this is interesting because I consider myself to be an honest person.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. I have one buddy who does an evaluation of himself every year. And he tells me, like, one of the things that he tries to do is be completely honest with himself and others.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's an amazing goal. But interestingly, as a contractor, we lie way more than we actually realize because we give expectations out to people to say, this is what I'm going to do. And typically we're quite decisive people. So we'll say it very authoritatively, like, yeah, this is what it is. So the other day I was working with one of my good buddies that I work for. He's a general contractor and one of his key guys. And I was dealing with shingle choices, doing a rental, trying to match stuff in. And I was like, yeah, this one's just off the market. And turns out it was just a brand I never look at. It was just a homeowner had done this job, had got it from a homeowner specialty store, basically, and just something contractors don't use. It was just a brand, and it probably was available, but I ended up matching it up or trying to with a shingle that just wasn't right. And later, the homeowner was like, yeah, well, actually, no, those are still available. And I'm like, I was decisive about it. I wasn't like, I don't think that's, like, because I know my trade.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, so I apologize. I'm like, I'm sorry about that. And then yesterday I was talking to another contractor I'm doing a massive job for, and I'd had to been pulled away to do a few other things. And then I told him, I said, hey, like, now I'm on your job, don't worry. Well, it turns out I'm going to the island next week and it's still in the middle of this job. And I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I just straight up lied to you straight now. I said, I didn't mean to. It's just like, I have certain expectations that this is my heart. This is where I want to be. And it just doesn't happen. And so, and another situation that I'm working through, I just have certain time limits that I want to hit. And I said to my buddy that I'm working with, I'm like, yeah, I can do that. And turns out, no, I can't.
Yeah.
and so it's not, it's not egregious. It's not, but it's interesting because when you look at success, and this is what we want to talk about today, is like, what does success look like, and how do we manage success in our business from a place that actually makes sense with who we are, with what our intentions are in life, and the bigger picture? Because success in the very short term can be like, okay, well, I can't hit these timelines, but this is when there's an inspection going on this house. So if I can get ahead of that game, then there's an element of success to it, despite the fact that I'm not hitting my normal standards. And so you can really confine it to something mechanical to say, well, success is just keeping everybody okay.
Yeah.
That's very surface.
Yeah. And it goes very deep because arguably the world says, like, what's the world deem as a successful company? Almost always goes back to finance. When we look at the stock market, and even team goals. Like they're always usually chasing after financial goals.
Yes.
And from a world point of view, looking in and how everybody's looking at your company, it's like there's this major financial component, which, like, granted, you got to be profitable you need that security so that you're not making rash decisions. But every single day we're faced with decisions that challenge what our definition of success truly is.
True.
And when there's this financial bar that is like constantly hovering over our head, there's security in that. There's comfort in that. Like if you hit a certain amount of financial success, like,
Yeah.
and it is important to, again, be profitable, but how often are we choosing profit over people? How often are bringing on customers or clientele who work against our values? How often are we making decisions day to day, cutting corners in order to get jobs done faster? And this is something that I've been finding, especially when I'm under an intense amount of pressure. How often am I neglecting my family because my business comes first?
Yeah.
And part of it's the definition of success for your business, but it's also like success for your life is in general.
Well, they're pretty closely linked. Like they're
Yeah.
not two separate things.
Especially when you're leading a company. I mean, your company is a huge part of your life and identity.
For sure.
So,
And going back to why finances are a major target and a major like kind of indicator of health, I guess a lot of people would argue in a business. I think that one of the simple reasons is that the metrics are really easy. Like you can tell almost instantly, as long as your books are up to date, which is a completely different discussion in small business, but you can tell with your year end whether your year was successful in quotations or non-successful. And so those kind of metrics are super appealing because they're quantifiable. You can be like, yeah, well, we exceeded our goals by 10%. Okay, no, that says a lot. I think a lot of times, even in the financial side of what is considered successful, I think that often we're looking at the wrong metrics, in my opinion. I think that at different times in your company, different metrics matter more than others. I think when you're starting out, I think that the metrics of just business volume matter a lot. Because when you're starting out, if you don't have some revenue, if you're not starting on engine and going somewhere, then I don't think like your profitability when you first start is not really an issue, in my opinion. I think that you're almost only working for the future. And if you're profitable in the short term, hallelujah. But if you're not, that's not the major goal, in my opinion. It's not a major goal.
To clarify that, profitability on an annual basis isn't important, but profitable from job to job definitely is. Because my first business, because I wasn't pricing properly and was basically doing some jobs for free.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons I didn't. So, I mean,
well, yeah, but the thing is, if you had some capital going in, you would gladly take those slight losses.
Yeah.
If in order to build your company and build a reputation and get the engine going. Most of us in small business don't start capitalized well. And so because of that, you need to be profitable instantly. But the truth is you're making short-term decisions rather than long-term. But then when you're building a long-term company, net profit is a much more important number at a certain point than gross revenue, in my opinion.
Really?
I really believe that. Absolutely.
Okay.
And my thought around that is that you can literally, I mean, a good example of this is that when I was running my cabinet shop, it was a day of reckoning when we landed this massive contract with a hotel to replace all their countertops in, I think, the biggest hotel in our town. And so a lot of volume over not that long a period of time. And so I sat down with my manager at the time and said, okay, well, what are the numbers? Because he had done this deal completely without talking to me, which is a little questionable on its own, but that's okay. I mean, he was the manager.
Yeah.
And he walked me through the numbers, and I took him to my accountant, and I'm like, am I losing my mind here? Like, this doesn't look good. He said, here's the beautiful thing about this is that the more volume you do at this number, the faster you're going to just die, because you're literally going to take a loss on every job that you do there. And so Whereas my manager was just like, well, we have volume, we'll keep the guys busy. And
Yeah.
and if you've got a lot of cash behind you, maybe you can go through a season like that. But we weren't in that position. And so I ended up having to fire my manager over that decision. It was a key decision for us because I'm like, you can't run this business this way.
How did you handle that contract? Like, did you guys fulfill that contract despite it?
We did not.
Okay, you walked away from it.
We had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we literally could not fulfill it.
And that's for the sake of the healthier business and your staff and everybody. Because this is one of the questions I've run into this where my team will price something very poorly.
Right.
And we always have the conversation of like, should we talk to the customer because a mistake was made, or do we just eat it?
Yeah.
And me and one of my main partners, it's always a conversation of like, well, we've agreed to this, we have a signed contract. And it's just like, even a few years ago when COVID hit,
Yeah.
it was really tough.
Oh, it was
because
Yeah.
we had jobs spill over from the year before.
Yeah.
And material price went up and we had signed contracts with customers. But all the jobs that had plywood, the cost of plywood, like what, 5 times the price?
Just about. Yeah.
Over the
4 times for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had a signed contract and we were like, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
And we had, that one was so bad. We talked to the customers and the customers, there were only a couple, but they went to us and said, no, we have a signed contract.
Right.
And so we were like, and we did it.
Sure.
And we literally did work knowing we were doing it at a loss. And
So-
that's such a challenge.
It's a huge challenge. And I think overall in my career, I would take that approach. In this particular instance, it was just such a massive contract for a very small company without a lot of capital behind us. It just simply was impossible.
Yeah.
It just wasn't. And so I had to go to the hotel and be like, hey, like my manager is no longer with us, and partially because he priced us wrong. And so we've got to step back from this.
Yeah.
And I mean, honestly, they're faceless. Essentially, they're a big enough corporation that it wasn't like an emotional issue for them. They just like call the next number. But for me, it was a big deal because I'm like, there's no reason. Like, so what we're talking about here is like success just from the dollar standpoint is a little more nuanced than a lot of times we think it is. And it can hit our values, because when you go back on a contract, which is a horrible thing to do, but if you don't have the physical ability to fulfill something at a certain point, you've got to call it, right? Like you can go through something and then just literally be like, okay, now we're going to shut down the whole business.
Yeah. But you also don't want to like nitpick every little job you do.
Definitely.
Oh, this job's not profitable. I'm walking away.
No, and in fact, my reputation overall has been made exactly the opposite way.
Yeah.
Which is like, this is my number. I know my numbers. And one of the biggest examples of that for me was that early days, I used to pride myself in getting numbers to people immediately. Like that was part of how I built my reputation. And so, and math comes easy to me. And so that was never a problem. And I like to do the calculations and just get it to them. And so what I would do in the early days, and I was 19, 20 years old. I can remember I would go and talk with a customer. And while I was talking to them, I would be figuring out their job. And then I would hand them the quote during our conversation. Horrible business practice, because it worked most of the time, because especially back then, most of our homes were fairly simple here. So the math was fairly basic. But I can remember, I still remember to this day, because it really impacted me. I was sitting in White Spot and I was talking with this guy who I kind of knew. He was like a family friend from the church. And I was like figuring out this stuff, and he had taken me out for lunch to discuss. It was a big job. It was 12-12. It had like a turret. It was a very intense job for my company at that time. And I just calculated it all as if it was like a 412, which is a very easy, walkable, standard, like
not even in the same scope.
Not even in the same, yeah. The work is, and then this one was like 12-12 plus. Like the turret was way up in the air. I did not have the equipment for it. We were going to make it work. And priced it on a 412 basis, which means that everything was wrong. Like the number was just a fraction. Like it was, to say it was about half of what it should have been was probably about right. And I handed it across to him, didn't think twice about it, went home, looked at it, and I'm like, oh, wow.
Oh no.
So I honored it, because it was totally just an idiotic move on my part.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what else to do. I'm like, I can't go and tell them, oh, sorry, it's going to be like twice what I told you. Like, it doesn't even make sense. And I was trying to, and my value system at that point was like, I was trying to protect my reputation and become somebody. And I'm like, I'm just going to have to do this. And so it turns out that I was working with my brother at the time. I just had him work other jobs, and I just told him I'm just going to get lost in this job for a while and work for free, basically. And then at a certain point, it'll be done and we'll move on. And so I was trying to build something based on my own concept of integrity and what that looks like. I don't know, like if I was advising a younger businessman today about that, I'd probably say eat your ego and sit down with the guy and explain to him.
Have a realistic
I
conversation.
think so. I think at this point in my career, if I made that kind of mistake, I would eat it and like literally stop doing business.
Yeah, we have the conversation.
Yeah.
Like if our sales guy makes a mistake, ask, and if at all possible, hopefully you're dealing with somebody who understands.
Right. Yeah.
But it's always worth it to ask. Just be like, hey, like this, we missed this on,
Yeah.
and we know we have a signed contract, but like,
Yeah.
you know, can we meet in the middle at least or
Yeah.
something? And if they say no, they say no.
And usually they'll say no, I would assume.
But man, this conversation actually reminds me of a really interesting circumstance that we had in this exact regard, both for our company and the company we were dealing with. And actually, I think it genuinely broke up a partnership with the company who hired us.
Hold on.
Because a builder in northern BC, hired us to do a labor only on a siding project.
Okay.
Massive job.
Yeah.
And I had hired the wrong person
Yeah.
to run that division. Wonderful man, but he was just overwhelmed, and he priced this thing awful.
Right.
It was 2 hours out of town,
Yeah.
and he priced it like it was in town,
Oh, man.
and he priced it at like probably a fifth of what it should have been. Literally should have been a $50,000 plus, and we were like 11 or 12 grand.
Oh.
It made no sense. And even the builder came to him and was like, "Are you sure? How are you going to do it for this price?" He said, "Yeah, I'm sure. It's good to go." Wow. And like they even tried to red flag him, being like, "Man, your price is so low.
Yeah.
Like, are you sure?" So, and he committed, and he was like, "Yes." Kind of wish they brought it to me.
Sure.
But regardless, we committed to do this. The job ended up happening out of town through the dead of winter.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
So I got involved, and at this point, like it was red flags everywhere. And the builder like was in trouble because now we're not meeting timelines.
Sure.
We way overcommitted to this job that we're making no money on.
Oh, man.
And within the first week, we were already in the red.
Oh.
And but the builder came to us. He said, "Man, we passed your price on to the homeowner."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, this becomes complicated.
this is like, and I'm like, I can't screw this guy over.
Yeah.
Like we have to. So I just told him, I'm like, look, I'm going to come myself.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not an expert cider, but I'll do everything I can.
Yeah.
And we did. Like we were there, and we actually, because we were way behind on schedule, they had ciders on their team. And I said, "Hey, we'll sub our ciders to you. And what little we've charged you, let's just eat up that."
Yeah.
So we were literally there for 5 weeks working for free in the winter when our revenue sucks and our cash flow is gone.
Yeah.
And we ate this job in a big way, but we were just trying to, reputable builder in northern BC, and we were trying to hold it. But the problem with this was we used so much of their siders labor.
Yes.
That at the end of the job, after we literally didn't charge them,
yes,
one of the business partners sent us a like $20,000 bill. Or maybe it wasn't 20,000. It was huge for the sub labor.
Yeah.
So I'm like, not only do we do all this work for free, just to try and help
paying them to be out there.
And I got upset.
Yeah.
And I went to the business partner who I was dealing with, and I was like, dude, have some grace.
Yeah.
Like we literally, I had a crew there for 5 weeks for free.
Yeah.
Because of somebody who's now quit.
Yeah.
And run away from the situation. Yeah. We honored that and did everything in our power. And you guys are charging, because they charged us huge markup on their guys and everything.
Wow.
Like, yeah. It was absurd.
Sure.
And those business partners through that, he called me 2 weeks later. He's like, "Yeah, I'm leaving that business partner. Don't worry about it. we're not charging you anything.
Wow.
And we're doing
intense.
we're doing another project for that same builder in like a month. So
wow.
it's like,
Okay.
you know, the long term of it.
Sure.
And that's part of some of this is like how we make the decisions in the now
Oh yeah.
can radically hurt us in the short term, but you know, there's a long term gain.
And what does success look like? And the interesting thing is that we try, both you and I and the buddies that we work with closely, we all try. I mean, in Forge Contractor Alliance, like the four of us, I would say that one of the things that unites us is that we try to be honest guys. We try to be dependable.
Yeah.
We try to be the kind of guys that if you're doing business with us, best case scenario, you're going to love it. Worst case scenario is that we're going to do better next time.
Yeah.
Like that's our goal, right? Like we're not trying to be contractors that leave you with a gravel taste in your mouth and make some short money and just move on. And I think even some of the circumstances that I shared with, like with that hotel or with just my challenge on trying to be precise right now in this season with how I communicate, like we're not proud of some of the things that we do. What we're trying to dig into here in a really candid way is like, how will we align our day-to-day actions with what we consider to be success in life, success in business? How do we align these? Like, because a lot of the stuff happens in real time. Like, it's not like you sit down, you know, like when I was sitting down at White Spot with this guy, to this day, he doesn't know that I took a hit on his job. Like, he wouldn't even know if he was listening to this, he wouldn't even know it was him. And so at that point, I did what I felt was the right thing to do. In retrospect, I think a piece of that was really pride, like a piece of that. And I don't mean the healthy kind of pride, but you know, like there's certain like pride in taking pride in what you do. A certain part of it was I didn't want to admit that I could make a mistake. And so I should have had a communication with him. He was the kind of guy, honestly, because I knew right away. Like the thing is, so here's the thing is that I feel like if you recognize a mistake in pricing and it's like halfway through a job, then to go back to your customer and say, hey, like we priced this wrong, man, that's like now they're in a really, really super awkward spot because you're already like, everything's ripped apart. People can't, it's extremely hard to take over someone else's botched project. Like that's a horrible sell. It's almost impossible to find a good contractor to take up another contractor's mess. Like that's asking a lot. And so you're kind of got someone in a really tough, awkward, and not great position. If you have priced something and that evening you recognize you make a mistake, I think it's legitimate to be like, hey, like it's a mistake. What I did in my company, and I think this is important, and literally to this day, I have never sat down and given someone numbers while I'm talking to them. I just never do it.
Really?
And I never do it. They will often ask me for approximate numbers, and I'm really, really scared to give people approximate numbers, even to this day, because what happens is that if you give someone an approximate number, that becomes their number in their head.
Yeah.
It just does. And so they'll just be like, well, just throw me something rough. And I'm like, no. Yeah. And they're like, well, come on, you know your job. I'm like, yes, I do, which is why I'm not throwing you a rough number, because I'm going to overlook something. Because almost 100% of the time when I go in to price something, even today, my initial thought is it's going to be slightly cheaper than it actually must be, because there's details, there's things there. And so in order for me to have any amount of integrity, I've got to take a little bit of time and think about it. If I've thought about it in advance and I've known the contract and it's been on my desk or whatever, and it's just a matter of communication now, yeah, I'll throw them a number even if I haven't done the full work. Absolutely, in a conversation, but not until I've had that thought.
So just a thought, the flip side of this, because again, we're talking about the decisions that define what having a successful business looks like.
Yeah.
So honoring our word is probably the theme of what we're talking about. When we give a bad price, even if we're wrong, how do we handle that in an honorable way? What happens on the flip side? Have you ever had the temptation where somebody looks at you and says, I'm hiring you no matter what the price is?
Oh man.
And
yeah,
I don't like it when people tell me that.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
Because I'm like,
They're like,
I want to charge you more now.
well, here's an example.
I can't.
But no, exactly.
It's like,
I don't like it. I'm like, no, like
offered.
typically what my response to that is, and I get it a lot because all my work is done through word of mouth. And so it's about my reputation and people typically trust me, which I appreciate. And trust is a big word. There's a huge spectrum there. And I don't mean that people necessarily trust me in a way that they don't think I can do any wrong. It's just like we have a basic trust relationship. That's the way we operate.
Yep.
And that's the way I like to present myself. And I like to extend trust to the people I work for, which is a big deal to me because I feel like it has to go both ways. And so when someone says that, in fact, I had someone just the other day, he was like, well, so long as it's not 100,000, you got the job. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But it's an awkward place to be.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, so you're telling me I've got this, and essentially, and I don't blame customers for saying this, like they're not holding you guilty until proven innocent. You're innocent until proven guilty, basically, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
We'd like you to do the job. It's yours to lose, essentially, which is different than it's yours to win. I find those two completely different scenarios. So, and I appreciate the extension of what they consider to be trust and goodwill. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But it does put me in an awkward position because there's a certain price point that I need to be at. And I typically go slightly lower with someone that says that just because I want to honor their faith in me.
Yeah.
So usually right now, I just my immediate, like right in the moment, because I get this so often, I'm just like, well, here's the deal. I'm going to get you some numbers. You take a look at them. Then let's chat about this.
Yeah. It's a weird thing because I love it when people say that.
Sure.
Because it shows like, oh, see your brand.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
You know, there's that element of trust.
Totally.
But I hate getting it before I price the job. Because every job I want to go in, I want to win it based on like with the mindset of I'm going up against, you know, not only competition, but I want to, you know, problem solve this customer's concerns and walk away from a sale having been a problem solver and brought excellent value to the table.
Totally.
And my favorite scenario is when I walk into a contract, and I think for people who hire contractors, this is the approach. If you're hiring somebody who you know you're going to hire, don't tell them they've got the job until you have the quote. And my favorite is I do have the conversation, you know, do the presentation, and then that customer says, yeah, I was going to hire you no matter what. So where do I sign?
Yes.
That is the best.
Yeah.
Because it just shows, it's just like, thank you so much.
It shows the trust. And the interesting thing, and I think this is a little bit of a rabbit trail, but it's still very closely related. The interesting thing is that I have worked with a ton of subcontractors over the years, and I've recommended different buddies. I can't say what the volume is, but huge volumes of work I've passed on to friends of mine. And what I've recognized is that fit matters. And what I mean by this is that if I have a buddy that actually can do whatever work it is really well, and I can recommend him on that point, but if I feel like for some reason the customer will not relate well to that person and there will be a breakdown of trust, my buddy, and I say this as generically as I possibly can, but this is what I've seen, is that my buddy will do their worst work for this customer. Like I've recommended, and it's interesting, back in my earlier days when I was recommending buddies, like I'd get work come across my desk. There's no way I could handle it desk loosely into my truck cab, basically. But I would look at the job and be like, well, so-and-so is excellent at this. And so I would just match one of my buddies with the work and pass on the number. And that was that. And often I would have a relationship with the potential customer in such a way that they would just take the recommendation.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I'd have them come back to me and say, man, that guy that you recommended just did like a horrible job for me. Like it was not a good scenario.
Ooh.
And so it would take me off guard because the person, I know what this success looked like to the person I was recommending, that their values line up with me. They will do their best job, all of those things. And they're qualified and they have the experience, all of those things. So I'm like, well, that's really, really strange. Like, what's the deal? And very quickly I began to realize that if there's not a good communication and if the personality types don't match up appropriately, and the contractor does not feel trusted, suddenly you can take someone who's super competent and it will just be their worst day and they will not work to the standard and the level that they typically can. So then I turn it internally and I'm like, who I work for is actually a really big deal. Because if I don't feel trusted, then I'm not sure what goes on inside your head, but there's something that happens that's like, I'm not achieving my goals here because one of my goals is to have a great relationship with my customer. And if that's not happening, then that's just kind of in your head as you're working. And somehow it just doesn't bring out the best. And I've seen it myself, I've seen it in others.
Oh, we definitely deal with that too, especially, and this is why it's such a struggle in dealing with the jobs and the direction that we want to head as a whole, because the temptation to work for certain builders who have massive projects, who want you to work for them, but you don't want to do projects because it's just a financial transaction.
Yeah.
It's like, this job would be nice for our bottom line. This job would help fill our schedule.
Sure.
Like, why do I actually want to work for this person who doesn't see the value in what we're doing?
Yeah.
And there's always this temptation to making decisions, even on the customers we're working for.
Yeah.
Because someone will come to you and be like, oh, I have this apartment building.
Yes.
And it's just like, ooh, the volume, it's tempting. Ooh, it's good. But right away, it's just like, oh, but we're going to talk about your price.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm just getting to the point on these things, and even just having this conversation. It's like, why do I even have that conversation?
Yeah.
Why am I like going against my beliefs and my definition of success just to appease this person, to find the comfort of the volume, find the comfort of filling my schedule?
And sometimes I think it's also ego.
Oh yeah.
Like, I think sometimes we feel like we should be able to take on everything and still keep everything rolling. And at the end of the day, look back and say, yeah, that was hugely successful. And I don't think that it's a clear line. Like, I have sometimes worked for customers that friends, mutual people that know the customer and myself are like, oh, you shouldn't be working for that person.
Mm-hmm.
They're not honest, or they will like stab you in the back, basically. And it's rare because most of luckily that, hey, yeah. And most of the people that I work for, I actually have, like, I always say, we're in a small town. If I see you across the street, like if I'm walking on the sidewalk and you're coming the other way, I don't want you to cross over the other side of the street to avoid me. Like, I want to be able to be friends with people after I've worked with them. It's super important to me. I don't feel like that's a huge part. That exact phrase, saying I want to be friends with people after the job is done, that's a huge part of what success looks like to me. Huge part. Like, that's massive. And that means that it was a fair transaction, that we did a decent job, is reasonable to good. And it was interesting, even about that, I was talking with a customer yesterday and talking about the job that I was doing and how there's one guy in town that's definitely better at what I'm doing than I am, and we both know him and we both know it. And it was interesting because typically I like to think of myself as the best in what I do, but the truth is that's not true.
Yeah.
Like, I do the best that I can do, but there are always people out there that can do a better job, but that's just how it is. Thankfully, because it keeps us humble. but we were talking about this guy and I'm like, I know he's superior to me. Like, I know that he knows what he's doing in a way that I don't. And thankfully, and the guy that was my customer I was talking to, he goes, but those extra things cost a lot and really aren't worth it. And I'm like, well, that's nice of you to say.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. But the truth is that if I was trying to work to that guy's standard, I couldn't. Like, I just don't have the tools. I don't have the experience. I don't have the training that he does. And so, or the resource for that matter. But I'm also not willing to take as long as he does on the job too. So there's a number, and I'm looking at
there's a value component there.
There really is.
Because it's like, yes, he might do a more fine-tuned job, but to 99% of people, they won't know the difference.
Oh yeah.
And he's got to charge exponentially more.
Absolutely.
In order to achieve what he's doing.
Yeah.
Whereas,
and success for me is bringing value, which means that, and there is a law of depreciating returns. Like, this is true in everything. In fact, this is a total aside, but not really, because we're talking about success in life. My daughter was figure skating when she was young. How was that for a jump? And so my daughter was figure skating, and she had been in it for 4 years, and she was at the place where the coaches were asking her to train like 6 or 7 times a week at that point. And a lot of that was really, really early in the morning, which partially was awesome because I often took her to a really early morning practice. And so it was a cool dad-daughter bonding time for us in a lot of ways. So it was neat, but it was just getting more and more and more intense. And at a certain point, my wife and I looked at each other and were like, okay, this is now too much. Like, there's certainly gains to still be made here, but now we're talking about incremental gains rather than this huge gains that had been already placed into her life, which was discipline, fitness,
and at what cost?
Those things. Absolutely, yeah. And the boys and the little brothers were sitting at Little Rink for like hours a week, going mental. And we're like, yeah, this is no longer a net win. But I think that in all things in life, there is a law of depreciating return where you invest, and then at a certain point, it's like, now what we're getting back is very minimal.
Yeah. So there's like the more extreme some things can get, the lower your return is on.
Yeah, I believe that part of success for me in life and in business is a constant evaluation. Constant evaluation of I guess I'm really careful of super extreme comments because like I've expressed, it's like I want to have complete integrity.
Yeah.
But I'm not completely honest. Like, and just saying that is hard for me.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge value for me. Like, integrity is a huge value.
Yeah.
And I try to be honest. But the truth is that there's a proverb that says that our heart is deceitful.
Yeah.
And we try to counteract that by saying, no, man, I'm an honest person. But I mean, honesty is a pursuit. I don't think honesty, like they call Abraham Lincoln Honest Abe. Well, come on, man. He was in politics and he was in the public eye. And I think he was able to present himself and communicate in such a way that he appeared honest, which is awesome. And I'm sure he tried to be honest, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But
doesn't mean it wasn't a struggle.
And it doesn't mean it was flawless. I mean, I can assure you it wasn't, because honesty is a pursuit. Yeah.
Every time things go sideways and, we don't make our marks, or we overcommit to a customer, and you have to call them and be like,
Yeah.
I even think I had this conversation yesterday with a customer. It's like, my number one goal is to make it's awkward because your number one goal is to make the customer still feel confident in you.
Absolutely.
And like, you're not messing them around. So your temptation is to say whatever under the sun.
Yeah.
Even if you're telling the truth and you're bending or exaggerating.
Sure. Or
emphasizing
one part without being completely candid. It's hard, man.
It is. It's a daily challenge to not, be slightly deceitful in how you're communicating to your customers or even to your staff.
And I find in the moment, it's often completely unintentional. Like you're trying to, like, what you're communicating is what you want to do and what you're hoping you can pull off. And if everything aligns, you can. But we know that that's just not the case. And I think that it's so success to me is like constantly evaluating both what I'm doing and my own intentions and how I'm communicating. And I mean, right now in this last week, it's a bit of a wake-up call, because I'm like, I'm under, just as you are, under a lot of, like, there's a lot of demands on what I'm doing right now. There's a lot of demands on what people want from me, and the phone is ringing.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And we haven't even communicated in the last like week or two because we've just been but we know what we're both hitting down. Oh yeah. I think that success requires a constant evaluation and a constant retracking.
Yeah.
And sometimes it requires apologies. Like sometimes it's like, you know what? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is my intention. This is what I can actually do. And the two are not the same.